In 2006, we demoted Pluto to a boring rock at the edge of the dark. But 9 years later, NASA's New Horizons probe sent back images that revealed a world of red snow, floating mountains, and a hidden ocean, shattering everything we thought we knew about planetary science. This wasn't just a distant, icy sphere. This was an active, dynamic world. Scientists were baffled. How could a dwarf planet so far from the Sun possibly harbor a vast, liquid ocean beneath its surface? On January 19, 2006, the New Horizons probe sat atop the most powerful version of the Atlas V rocket ever built. To give this piano-sized craft the momentum it needed, NASA strapped 5 solid rocket boosters to the base, creating over 2 million pounds of thrust. When it ignited, it didn't just launch, it vanished. New Horizons became the fastest object ever launched from Earth, screaming out of our atmosphere at over 36,000 miles per hour. That is nearly 10 miles every single second. It was moving so fast that it crossed the orbit of the Moon in just 9 hours, a trip that took the legendary Apollo astronauts 3 full days. Within a year, it reached Jupiter, using the king of planets as a gravitational slingshot. It stole a fraction of Jupiter's orbital energy, flinging itself even faster into the deep dark. But even at that insane, bullet-like speed, the universe is simply too big. After the Jupiter flyby, the silence set in. For 8 more years, the probe sailed through the nothingness. To save power and protect its delicate electronics, the team put New Horizons into hibernation. For nearly a decade, the fastest machine we've ever built slept in the dark, spinning slowly through the void, waiting for its moment to wake up. To understand how we reached the edge, you have to first grasp the terrifying scale of the void. Space is not just empty. It is hollow in a way the human mind isn't built to comprehend. Pluto is so far away that if you were to stand on its surface, the Sun would be nothing more than a brilliant, cold spark, a diamond in a black sky. It provides no warmth, only a faint, ghostly light. If you got into a car and drove toward Pluto at highway speeds, without a single stop for gas or food, your journey would last 6,000 years. You would live and die, and your descendants would live and die for 200 generations before the car ever reached the orbit of the 9th world. As New Horizons approached its target, it entered the Kuiper Belt, the 3rd zone of our solar system. This is a vast, chaotic shooting gallery of ancient debris, ice, and rock, left over from the very dawn of time. Because this region is so crowded, every world out here should be a pockmarked ruin, covered in millions of craters like our moon. But when New Horizons finally opened its eyes and beamed the first images back, it presented us with our first impossible mystery. Why does a world at the edge of the solar system look like it was born yesterday?
Staring back at us was a giant, perfect, shimmering white heart. In a region that should be covered in scars, the left lobe of that heart, Sputnik Planitia, is perfectly, eerily smooth. There isn't a single impact scar to be found. Geologically speaking, this means the surface was born yesterday. Something is healing Pluto. The culprit is nitrogen. At 400 degrees below zero, nitrogen freezes into a soft, exotic ice that behaves more like a fluid than a solid. Imagine a giant pot of thick, viscous soup simmering on a stove. Driven by heat from deep within, giant cells of nitrogen ice are bubbling up from the depths in slow motion, spreading out and sinking back down. This is a planetary circulatory system. If a massive asteroid strikes the heart of Pluto today, the nitrogen ice simply flows into the wound, smoothing it over until the scar vanishes forever. But that leads to a second question. How can a frozen rock have mountains that defy the laws of gravity? Nearby,
New Horizons captured images of mountains 11,000 feet high. But here's the thing. On Earth, mountains are made of rock. On Pluto, the ground is made of that soupy nitrogen ice. If you put a rock mountain on nitrogen ice, it would sink like a stone in water. So how do they stay up? It's because these mountains are made of water ice. On Pluto, water ice is so cold it becomes hard as granite, but it is still lighter than the nitrogen soup it sits in. These massive peaks are literally floating like icebergs in a frozen sea. They aren't anchored to anything. They are drifting blocks of ice the size of the Rockies. Then there is Right Mons. It stands 2.5 miles high and 90 miles wide, the size of Earth's biggest volcanoes. But it doesn't spew fire. It is a cryovolcano. Instead of lava, it erupts a freezing slush of water ice, ammonia, and methane that oozes out of the ground like cosmic toothpaste, flooding the landscape before freezing rock hard in the vacuum. This discovery leads us to the biggest mystery of all. Where is the heat coming from? And could something actually be alive in the dark? Pluto is tiny. It should have frozen solid billions of years ago. But deep inside its core, radioactive elements like uranium and potassium are decaying. As these atoms break apart, they release a tiny, steady stream of heat. It's not much, but over 4 billion years, it's been enough to keep the heart of this world beating. This internal heat is supporting a hidden world. Based on the way the planet's crust has cracked and shifted, scientists now believe that beneath that shell of ice, there is a subsurface ocean of liquid water over 100 miles deep. It stays liquid because it is saturated with ammonia, which acts like a chemical antifreeze. On Earth, we say, follow the water. Wherever we find liquid water and energy, we find life. Could there be microbes swimming in the dark, ammonia-rich abyss of Pluto? We found an ocean world where we expected a desert. The surprises didn't stop at the surface. As New Horizons looked back, it saw a ring of brilliant electric blue. Pluto has an atmosphere, and it even has red snow. It's not like the snow on Earth. This snow starts as methane gas high in the air. When the sun's faint ultraviolet light hits that gas, it triggers a chemical reaction, turning the gas into complex, red organic soot called tholins. This crimson dust falls from the sky for millions of years, painting the mountains in hues of rust and blood. But this leads to our final question. Why is Pluto literally bleeding onto its neighbor? Because its gravity is so weak, Pluto cannot hold on to its gases. Its atmosphere is constantly escaping, drifting away like a ghost. This breath reaches across the 12,000-mile gap toward its moon, Charon. The gas lands on Charon's north pole, freezes, and is cooked by ultraviolet light into a deep rust-red stain called Mordor macula. Pluto is literally spray-painting its partner with its own dying breath. When New Horizons finished its flyby, it began the slow process of sending data back. Because the probe is so far away and its transmitter is no more powerful than a light bulb, the data speed was slower than an old-fashioned dial-up modem. It took over 16 months just to download the photos and readings from that one single day of flight. But every bit of that data told the same story. We were wrong about the dark. We sent a probe to say goodbye to a piece of debris. Instead, we got a wake-up call. Pluto taught us that the dead zones of the universe might be the most active places of all. It taught us that the universe finds a way to be vibrant, complex, and beautiful, even in the most hostile corners of existence. If a tiny ball of ice on the edge of the void can hold a nuclear fire, a liquid ocean, and a beating heart, Imagine what else is waiting for us out there, in the dark.
New Horizons is now sailing into the space between the stars, heading toward the space between the suns. It is leaving Pluto behind forever, a silent sentinel at the edge of the sun's reach. But if you think a world of nitrogen glaciers is strange, you haven't seen anything yet. On the opposite side of the solar system, there is a planet that is the polar opposite of Pluto. A world where the clouds are made of acid, the air is thick enough to crush a submarine, and the temperature is hot enough to melt lead. Check out this video on what the Soviets found when they landed on Venus. The most metal-crushing, robot-killing hellscape in our neighborhood. Click right here, and I'll see you there.